Welcome. Right, good morning everyone, it's great to see you. Happy Father's Day, it's been said, but happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And first day of spring, how exciting. They coincide today, and I don't think that's a coincidence. And so what I want to share today is I want to share a little bit about fathers, I want to share a little bit about heroes of faith, and change as well, because change is a crazy thing that's everywhere, and it's good to look at it. So, look at that, here we go, heroes of faith, embracing change. Who likes a hero story? I think most people like a hero story, right? Whether it's Spider-Man or Batman or Superman or anyone like that, right? It could be someone from in this world, out of this world. It could be like a real-life person. Maybe you're into your 24 hours at A&E and you like to see how doctors help people, or into your firefighter shows, right? We all like to see people doing the best they can. Been watching the Olympics recently. It's so cool to see people reach their fullest potential and to dedicate life towards something. And I think deep down we love to see that. We like to see potentials meet. We like to see the good guy winning and the bad guy gets justice served and the sun sets on a good day, right? And deep down, I think all of us want to be the hero, right? We want to be the hero of our own story. We don't want to feel like we're on the sideline or benched and we watch our life just track on and we're like, oh, that could be me, right? We want to be our own hero. Now, I'll take a quick step to side and say, obviously, Jesus is our hero, okay? I'm not saying we're going to replace Jesus. He's done everything for us, but there's a part we play, right, with our free will. And when it comes to decision-making, life-changing, do we want to be on the forefront and be the hero, or are we going to be on the back foot? A hero, there's many ways to describe what a hero is, but I'm going to look at the angle today that heroes embrace change. So can we put the next slide up? This is a cool quote I got from John C. Maxwell. Change is inevitable, growth is optional. I've also heard this said that growing old is compulsory, but growing up is optional. I've heard that as well, so hence why I still play with Lego in my 30s. Mostly for my kids though, not just me, guys. Yeah. You're too quick to judge, that's not okay. The thing is that change is all around us. Change is everywhere. If we look around our physical building, you know, this is crazy. Haven't we got an amazing church? This is so cool that we've got, not just you guys, you're amazing, but like our physical building, right? Thank you for donuts, Ian. How good is that? Change, maybe in our waistlines as well coming. So we've got a new build. We've got a coffee machine and donuts. We've got the outside looking good. The early learning centre out the back, you know, that's looking amazing. We've got this naturally supernatural course happening, and there's a real hunger in the church for growth. So with change, what's going to happen is the big question, because we don't know. What happens now that we've got a new building and we have people come in? Do we just have 1 week, we have 100 extra people walk through the door? What does it look like? Do we have an influx in ministries? We don't know what the change will look like, but are we willing to partner on this side of the change to see it through? So I want to share a little story about myself and some change I've gone through recently. If you want to chuck the next photo up, Nathaniel. That's me, my beautiful whānau. Last July, we bought our first house, which is super exciting. Since this July, we moved in. So it's been pretty much a year of renovating. Now, if you don't know, I'm a music teacher. These hands are good for instruments, and I thought nothing else. So the idea of plastering and painting and renovating was terrifying. And we bought the house, and it was all good. And then I had no idea how much prep work went into painting and sanding for hours, and tape that sticks in the wrong place, and all that stuff. And I would come home to Becky defeated, like, I can't do this. I'm a music teacher. I'm not a builder. And luckily we had people like Kyle and my dad and people that helped out, and Greg as well along the way. And I learned a lot about myself and how actually when you trust the process, it's just a house, it's just paint, it's not the end of the world. But when you learn to take that step back and go, actually, this is happening, and I need to get on board, because I'm now the blockage, right? That's not getting painted because I'm not doing it, right? So if I can get out of the way and I can trust the process, I can trust those around me and let my mindset shift, then we're good to go, all right? So if you go to the next slide, this is us on our first night. A little bit of cheeky bluey there on the screen. But look, that house is painted. Right? You're welcome. So it was like every evening for like a year, we're chipping away. And times it was great and you'd see progress, and times it was debilitating. When you'd have an hour after dinner and you'd go and paint one door frame and come home, and you're like, cool, like, that was a great use of my time, Lord. But through the change, I grew in my perseverance, I grew in my resilience, and I'm proud to say that I help provide a home for my family, which is cool. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at how two heroes in the Bible, heroes of faith, how they journeyed through change and how they used it as an opportunity to grow instead of just letting it pass them by. So the first, we're going to look at men today, since it's Father's Day. Men, this is a challenge for you, okay? We're going to look at these guys. And after each man, we're going to have a bit of a look at what we can learn from them. So the first one is Caleb, right? Caleb, we're going to pick up the story in Numbers 13. Okay, now he was one of the 12 spies, if you don't know the story, who went into the promised land. And Joshua and Caleb came back with a good report. They came back to say, yes, there are bad things there, but we can do it with God on our side. Unfortunately, though, the Israelites heard the 10 negatives and they rebelled against God. Now, if you know the story, the punishment that God put on them was pretty severe. The punishment was, we read in Numbers 14, is that there was 40 years in the wilderness. And God pretty much said, everyone's going to die off. You guys that were not willing to receive, you don't get it. The only people that will walk into the promised land is Caleb and Joshua, those that brought the good report. Okay? So, we're going to fast forward 40 years because I don't want to read out 40 years of scripture to you. We're going to take it up to now. We've inherited, so Moses is dead. Joshua is now the new leader. And we've had some battles and we've walked into, we're now in Joshua 14. And we're going to read about, we're going to read about Caleb. Okay, so I've just paraphrased the things that are really going to stick out. I'm going to read the whole passage to you. So, now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land, and I brought back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still, this is amazing to me, I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out and battle now as I was then. Now, give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out, just as he said." Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. Such an epic story, eh? What a legend. What I love about this, and if you want to read about this further, Bob Sorge does an amazing thing about the power of perspectives, which I took a little bit of gleaning from with this. He talked about how 40 years, right? So let's go back to Numbers 13. Here's Caleb. He sees the land is good for the taking. And he goes, cool, I'm ready, let's go. And everyone else isn't, right? So he made the right thing. He followed God, and yet he's still in this corporate punishment, which I think pretty sure is against the Geneva Convention these days, right? A corporate punishment like that. But that was a joke. If you want to laugh, that's fun. And so he is now stuck in the wilderness for 40 years. Like, what a bad thing to happen. He didn't do anything wrong. He was the right guy for the job, and he tried to bring a good report, and nothing happened. So he now holds on to a promise for 40 years in the desert. It's a long time. It's a long time to go, did I do the right thing? Should I have done something else? What was lacking in my... Why did they listen to the bad report? I gave a good report. It's not documented, but you can imagine 40 years of almost lamenting in the desert, like, God, why am I here? I did the right thing. But in this, what we see is that Caleb gets hungry for what God has for him, which is super cool. So we fast forward to Joshua, and he's going up to one person. He's like, here's your house and land package, you're welcome. Here's your house and land package, you're welcome. Here's your house and land package. And he's going down, and when it comes to Caleb's turn, he goes, no, I was ready for a house and land package 40 years ago. I want that mountain. That's what I want. That's what I'm hungry for. What you're offering is 40 years dead to me. Like, I've been pushing into God. I've been pushing into the promises he's got, and I want the mountains. Now, I've done some reading. Hebron's not just one mountain. It's a range of mountains. It's like a whole thing, right? And he's like, there's bad guys here. I got this. And he goes and he just decimates them. And it says here at the end, it's belonged to Caleb ever since. The story was passed down. It's like, that's Caleb's land. He did the good thing, and he's got his inheritance for it. He never lost faith, and he wasn't content of the promises from 40 years ago. I don't know if I was 85, I'd be keen to go and run sword first into some fortresses, but he knew God was on the side. He saw God's provision in the wilderness. He saw all that happen, and he knew that God was going to take him there. So from Caleb, we can learn that pressing in during change, whether we understand why this change is happening or not, it will build our character, eh? It will build our perseverance, and our relationship with God will go deeper, which is really cool. So I think that's one cool thing we can take away from Caleb. The next person we're going to quickly look at is the most amazing Jesus. I think it's good to look at him and what we've got to learn from him. So we're going to look at two things from him. We're going to look at him from birth, okay? I'm going to read out a bit from Philippians here. So Philippians 2. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Jesus Christ, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Have you guys been in a three-legged race before? Who's been in a three-legged race? Okay, they're awkward, right? Especially if you're like, I've done them at school, and you've got like a 6-year-old, and I'm 32, and you can just, do this kind of. It doesn't. Oh, there we go. It doesn't really work, and it's probably like health and safety nightmare. But you're handicapped, eh? Like it's not a good thing to be able to be like that. And imagine just times it by a million. That's Jesus. He puts on humanity to his divinity, right? He's God, but he's like stuck in this body. He can't be everywhere at once. He's got to eat. He's got to sleep. He's got these emotions going on. He had to go through puberty. Like there's so many things that Jesus had to go through that he didn't have to, right? He didn't have to go through that. He chose to, though. That change from going from heaven as fully God, coming down and being fully God and fully man, that is a crazy change. He had to learn so much, right? And he had to battle with earthly trials. But he did it for us, right? He decided, I'm going to take on that change. We need change for mankind to be saved. I'm going to go and I'm going to grow through that opportunity, right? If you go to the next picture, we'll see that Jesus on the crucifixion, right? We know Jesus had an incredible ministry, and we can read through all the Gospels about all the beautiful miracles he did. And it's at the end of John, it says we could write a whole library full of all the things Jesus did, but we're documenting the most important ones so that you can find faith in Christ. So we know that he was doing well, and he was doing the Lord's mission on earth. He could have stayed doing that, right? He could have stayed on earth, just keep doing ministry, but he chose to change what he was doing and go to the cross. What I love about that, obviously, is that we wouldn't be here today without Jesus doing that, right? We're dead to sin, and Jesus saved us from ourselves. But what I love is that he still battled with that change. In Luke 22:42, he says, Father, if you're willing, I'm going to add a please, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours being done. And it's so encouraging because there's this huge, when we read, like, crucifixion's awful. We know that, right? And he's going to willingly walk into that, and he's still going, I don't know if I want to do this. How often is that us? Oh, God, do I have to do that? Do I have to pray for that person? Do I have to, there's so many, do I have to step out here? Jesus battled with that, so it's okay to grapple with it as long as we can be overcomers, right? And I've used that picture of Jesus on the cross because while he's up there on the cross, we share the story of the criminal on either side, right? And even in that moment of excruciating pain and dying, Jesus is still thinking about his ministry, and he's saying, yep, you'll be in paradise with me. While he's on the cross, he says to John, here's your mother, and you're going to look out. He's looking after the earthly stuff as well. He's so focused on what his goal is to accomplish that the pain is not even really registering. He continues to fulfill prophecy on the cross. That's crazy, yeah? He's like, can I have a drink? And someone gives him vinegar. That was prophesied hundreds of years ago. If he was wrapped up in, I don't want to be up here on the cross, change is happening, there would probably be like prophecies unfulfilled or things where we would have missed out on. So he embraced it fully, which is great. And I know there's a whole library of things we could fill up with what we can learn from Jesus. But one thing I want to take away today is that when we walk out God's calling on our lives, regardless of how it looks or feels or the size we think it is, it will change the world. So the big question then is, if you go to the next slide, what is my call? How does this fit in? What are you even talking about, Jesse? Okay? Because I know we want to apply it to our lives, right? What's the application? So I want to get you all to take a second and think about what is, like Greg talked about call recently, right? And the call on your life. Like, I want you to think, do I know what the call over my life is? Okay, you don't have to share it, don't have to yell it out or anything, but just take a second. Do I know what the call over my life is? Okay, you may think you're involved with ministry, maybe it's about talking to your neighbours. Okay, this isn't like this is a rhetorical. I'm not asking for feedback. It's just put that in your mind. Okay, now a really good place to start, and I do this for myself all the time if I'm a bit confused on what I should be doing or what God's challenging me to do, is to go to Micah 6:8. Okay, now I love this verse. Okay, it's super simple and it's laid out really nicely. So it says, He is showing you, O mortal, that's us, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That is like mic drop, I could walk away, right? That's it. That's like the platform that we have. So if we're confused, it's like, God, I don't know what you're calling me into. I don't really know what my purpose is at the moment. Start acting those three things out and you'll see God move. You know, are you walking humbly? Do you take correction? Are you teachable? Do you love mercy? Do you have God's heart for people? Do you act justly? Do you follow what God's telling you to do? And do you uphold His law? You know, those things there and as a Trinity, it's really powerful stuff, which is really cool. Years ago now, I was a youth worker, and we used to get hoodies with this on. This was like our slogan, and it's Micah 6:8. And they used to do a design. They would say, youth workers design whatever you like, do a competition. And some of the designs some year, it's like doctor's writing, right? Like no one could determine what was on these hoodies. So now it's quite nice to just blend, and it's just like, you know, act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. And I found as a youth worker, having a hoodie on with that, man, it started a conversation. Well, like, what is that? What does that mean? And you're like, oh, well, it's, you know, Micah 6:8, and you could explain it. And they're like, well, what does that mean? And, you know, you're talking to 13-year-olds about how to live a godly life just because I'm wearing something on it. And it was very much like the scripture for 24/7 youth work. It still is, isn't it? It's very much part of it, yeah. So it's a really good starting point. Doing the Naturally Supernatural course, I've learned about the idea of standing orders. Okay, if you're doing that course, you'll know what I'm talking about. The idea is that if you're in the military, if, say, my commander-in-chief has left the barracks for the day, I don't just get to sit down and play my PlayStation all day or play cards or go for a run. There are standing orders that have to happen. The barracks get cleaned, rifles, maintenance, or uniform, everything, right? There are things to do when the chief isn't around. And so what are those for us? The Great Commission. So in Mark 16:15-18, we have Jesus' command to us. He said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. So that's the first one. If you're like, I don't know what my call is, I don't know what God's asking me to do in my life, start there. You can start preaching to your dog. That's creation, right? Get comfortable saying these words out loud. Get comfortable. Can I articulate my testimony and talk of God's goodness? Right? Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And then Jesus goes on, and these signs will accompany those who believe in my name. They will drive out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison, they will not get hurt at all. They will place their hands on the sick people, and they will get well. Those are our standing orders. So if someone says, as I've been learning, you know, I'm sick, can you pray for me? I don't have to go away and be like, oh, I'm going to pray if I can pray for you really quickly, right? Is it the Lord's will that you be healed? Yes, Jesus outlaid it really clearly, you know. Can we, I don't know how comfortable I am about picking up snakes at this point, but it's there, right? It's there. It's there for the taking. And so we have these standing orders. So again, if you're like, oh, I don't really know what God's asking me to do, how can I be a hero of faith? How can I start to build up and be resilient in these changes? Look for these things. Are you positioning yourself to pray for healing? Do you believe in healing and the praying of laying on hands? The last thing I want to talk about is sharing our testimonies, okay? These stories of Caleb and Jesus are awesome because they've been shared, right? Caleb's story would have been just oral tradition and talked about until it was written down. And then we have his story because people went, this story is relevant and we want to continue to share this story, right? These are the stories we have in the Bible. There's truth to them. There's hard-hitting hits in there. That's why they're good. So share your stories. Share about your biblical heroes. Share about things that are going on. I've put up the highs, lows, heroes. This is something I learned being a teacher at school. If you start in a class and it's a bit going, okay, turn to the person next to you. What's been a highlight of the week? What's been a low light? Who's been a hero? Right? So you can apply that anywhere in your life, right? You're sitting with your kids. Hey, what's been a highlight, low light? What's been a hero? Right? I think often we put, I know we can often be like, have you had a good day? And we premise everything with like this, like it has to be up here. So if something doesn't meet that, oh my goodness, it's like the end of the world. But I've come home and had bad days at school. It's like, I didn't get through this work, or I didn't get that thing done, or I probably was a bit too sassy with that student. It was borderline, not banter, maybe a bit more bullying. I don't know, we'll figure that out, right? Mostly my senior classes, you guys know what I'm talking about. So it's fine. But like sharing those little losses actually kind of like demystifies the whole thing, because what we don't want to do is put ourselves on pedestals and say, heroes of faith are up there, and there's no way I can achieve that. So I'm just stuck down here, and what do I do? Right? We have to share the wins, we share the losses, and we share the people that are inspiring to us and the heroes in our lives. So I'm going to get the team to come up. I'm going to finish with a question for you all, okay? So my question, if you want to go to the last slide, I'm going to put that quote up there again, okay? So change is inevitable, growth is optional. We've learned about Caleb and Jesus and the way they've taken on change. And so I want to ask this question to you. How are you embracing growth through change? Because change is happening. We are in spring. Whether you like it or not, we're going to start seeing new foliage. We're going to start seeing new daylight hours. We're going to have new opportunities for things. Are you embracing that? Or are you just going, I'm just going to ride the season out and not be a participant in it? Right? And then the next question is, how are you embracing it and how can you walk it out? Because I think that's the most important thing, right? So I encourage you to think of one person, one thing you can do this week to talk to someone about faith, or share some highs, lows, and heroes with someone, something along those lines, because change is happening and we want to be on board with it, eh? Cool. So I'd love to pray for you. If you're like, yeah, you know what? I can see an area that I need to step into. Change is happening and I'm avoiding it. I've got my head in the sand. I'd love to pray with you. I'd love to pray for fathers on Father's Day, an uplifting and strengthening for you. And always if there's sickness, we've seen some amazing, amazing healings recently. So we'll keep praying for that. So yeah, thank you.